Mill accused me of adultery and took all my belongings out because my newborn son is ugly? I am 28 years old and have been married to Mike, my 30-year-old spouse, for 3 years. We recently welcomed our first child, a boy named James. What should have been a pleasant time became a nightmare because to my mother-in-law, Linda, 55. Linda never liked me. When Mike introduced me to his parents, Linda made it apparent that she did not think I was suitable for her son. I come from a working-class background, whereas Mike's family is wealthy. Linda always made disparaging remarks about my employment as a nurse, claiming Mike could do better than someone who only changed bedpans. But Mike and I fell in love and married anyhow. Mike and I met during a charity event. He was there with his friends when I was volunteering for my nursing program. We liked one another immediately away since we both enjoyed helping others. Mike was unlike the other males I'd met. He was friendly and didn't mind that I wasn't wealthy. He loved how hard I worked to become a nurse. We got serious quickly. Within a year, we were discussing getting married. That was when I first met Linda. Mike warned me that his mother could be unpleasant, but I was unprepared for how harsh she was. Linda treated me like dirt when I first arrived at their place. She shook my hand briefly and phony smiled at me. During dinner, she questioned me about my family job and future ambitions. She frowned further with each response I made. After dinner, I heard her tell Mike that he could do better than that chick. She mentioned a family friend's daughter who was attending law school. Mike stood up for me, but I knew there would be a problem. Even though Linda did not agree, Mike and I became engaged a few months later. Linda wasn't pleased. She tried to make Mike wait to marry, claiming we were too young. When it didn't work, she attempted to organize a large, extravagant wedding that we couldn't afford. Mike said no, and we got the modest wedding we desired. Linda was angry the entire time. She even gave a speech in which she expressed her wish that I would reach to their level of status in their family. It was embarrassing, but Mike and I tried not to let it spoil our day. Linda continued to cause problems even after we married. She tried to hook Mike up with other ladies despite the fact that we were married. She claimed Mike was settling for me and that our children would be similar because of my background. Mike constantly defended me, which made Linda loathe me even more. Linda would show up at our place unexpectedly. She would be critical of everything, including our furniture and meals. She even brought a lady she wanted Mike to date, claiming they met by chance. Mike was so upset that he didn't speak to his mother for weeks afterward. Despite Linda's meanness, Mike and I were content. We both had nice jobs. I became the hospital's head nurse, and Mike was doing well with his family's business. We wanted a baby but waited till we were ready. Linda was not thrilled when we informed everyone I was pregnant. She said she hoped the baby will resemble Mike's family. She came to every doctor's appointment, despite our requests for privacy. She questioned everything we did, even our doctor and the vitamins I took. Linda deteriorated as the due day approached. She wanted me to stay with her for the final month of my pregnancy because she didn't trust Mike to care for me. I refused, and we had a great quarrel. When it was time to deliver the baby, I was in labor for 36 hours. It was extremely difficult. But Mike stayed with me the entire time. When James was born, we were overjoyed. He had dark hair, much like Mike. We stayed in the hospital for 2 days with our newborn. I was tired, but thrilled. Mike called our folks to let them know we'd be home shortly. Linda said she'd come over to help, despite our request for some time alone as a new family. When Mike drove us home, we were shocked to see that all of my belongings had been scattered all over the front yard. My clothes, books, and nurse outfits were visible to the entire neighborhood. Linda stood at the doorway, looking smug. I was shocked. Mike was angry. He instructed me to wait in the car with James while he dealt with Linda. Linda began to yell as he approached the home. "How dare you come back, you cheating whore," she screamed. "I knew you were not good enough for Mike, and now I have confirmation." Mike was puzzled. "What are you talking about?" he inquired fiercely. Linda pointed at James inside the automobile. "That baby is not Mike's. Nobody in our family looks so hideous as an infant. You cheated on my son and are now trapping him with another man's baby." I couldn't believe what I heard. Mike attempted to explain, but Linda would not listen. She kept telling me I wasn't good and that she was protecting her son from a cheater. I got out of the car with James, crying, and begged Linda to stop. But she continued to hurl horrible things at me. Mike had enough. He told Linda to leave our house. She refused, claiming she was there to help her son and grandson, forgetting she had just stated that the baby was not Mike's. He pulled it out and said, "You must leave now, you're not welcome here anymore." Linda assumed Mike would side with her, but he didn't, Mom. "You need to leave. He clearly stated that what you done was inexcusable." Linda realized she had lost. She grabbed her bag and fled, yelling that she'd come back to save Mike and James from me. After she went, Mike and I took James inside and placed him in his cot. Then we discussed what happened. Mike was really angry at his mother. He couldn't believe she was accusing me of infidelity and attempting to push me out of our home. We spent hours moving my belongings back inside and tidying up. Mike's phone rang repeatedly with messages from Linda and other family members. Linda had already spread her lies about me cheating. That night, after James had fallen asleep, Mike and I determined what to do. We decided that Linda couldn't come to our house or see James until she apologized and demonstrated her ability to behave. Mike indicated he wouldn't speak to his mother for a while. The next day, I called my folks and explained what had happened. They were really outraged and offered to remain with us to assist. We said yes, it has been a week since this all occurred, and things are still horrible. Linda continues to phone and text me, occasionally apologizing and sometimes accusing me again. Mike's father is attempting to broker peace, but we are not changing our beliefs. Some of Mike's family members believe we are being too hard on Linda. They believe she was only attempting to protect Mike. They beg us to forgive her so the family can stay together. Others understand why we're angry and agree with our decision to keep Linda away until she can be pleasant. I feel sorry for Mike. This should be a pleasant moment for our new baby, but instead, he is struggling with family strife and his mother's treachery. I'm doing my best to support him and care for James, but I can see how much this is affecting him. I'm angry and hurt too. I have always tried to be a good wife to Mike, and now I am a wonderful mother to James. Linda's onslaught on me and her attempt to harm my family is almost unbearable. This is incredibly hard for both of us. I'm coping with all of the emotions that come with having a new baby, as well as the drama. Mike is trying to be strong for me and James, but I can tell he is exhausted and stressed. We're not sleeping well, and not just because of the baby. Mike has considered pursuing a restraining order against Linda, but he is concerned about how his family will respond. We do not want to make matters worse. We've discussed moving to a different city to escape the turmoil, but we like our employment and our home, and it doesn't seem right that we should have to relocate because of Linda's actions. Mike attempted to talk to his father in the hopes of persuading Linda to see reason, but his father does not want to become involved. I believe he's accustomed to letting Linda do anything she wants to keep the peace. I've always thought family was important, but I'm not sure anymore. Is it worth staying in a relationship with someone who can be so hurtful? What if that person is your mother-in-law? Mike and I have discussed going to counseling to help us cope with this. We know we have to stick together, but it's difficult when we're both exhausted and upset. Furthermore, with a new baby, it is difficult to find time for counseling. Linda came up at Mike's office last week, which made things much worse. She made a big deal, crying and informing everyone that Mike was keeping her grandson from her. Mike's co-workers were stunned, and his employer was not pleased with the inconvenience. Mike had to explain the situation to his supervisor, which was both embarrassing and unpleasant for him. Then Linda began contacting my office. She informed my coworkers that I was an unsuitable mother who had imprisoned her son with another man's baby. The supervisor understood, but it was embarrassing for me. I was anxious about how it would influence my job. Mike's sister, Emma 27F, became involved next. At first she agreed with Linda, accepting the lies about me cheating. She called Mike and said some very harsh things, accusing him of choosing me over his real family. Mike was very unhappy about this because he and Emma had always been close. But then something unexpected occurred. Emma visited our house one day while Mike was at work. She explained that she wanted to see the kid for herself. I was nervous, but I allowed her in. Her entire attitude altered the moment she saw James. She saw how much he resembled Mike and concluded Linda was lying. Emma apologized to me and promised to speak with the rest of the family. She became our staunchest advocate, defending us before Linda and the rest of the family. This sparked a major fight in Mike's family, with individuals taking sides. Linda didn't like Emma being on our side anymore. She began spreading stories that Emma was jealous since she was not married and had no children of her own. Emma was deeply saddened by this. Linda hired a private investigator to follow me around, which exacerbated the situation. She was persuaded that if I had cheated once, I must continue to cheat. The pie followed me everywhere, including work, the grocery store, and doctor's appointments. It left me feeling afraid and violated. When Mike learned about the pie, he was enraged. He approached Linda and threatened to file a restraining order if she did not cease. Linda cried and stated she was only trying to protect her son, but Mike didn't believe her anymore. Linda attempted to file for grandparents' rights, which proved to be the final straw. She went to a lawyer and requested legal visitation with James. Fortunately, the lawyer informed her that she didn't have a case, especially since James was so young and she had never met him. All of this stress began to take a toll on my health. I was having difficulties producing enough milk for James, and I was losing weight quickly. My doctor was concerned about postpartum depression. Mike's father finally understood how serious the issue was. He came to our house and apologized for not stepping in earlier. He agreed to deal with Linda and back our decision to keep her away from our family. 3 months after James' birth, things are finally starting to quiet down. Linda has reduced the frequency with which she calls and texts. Mike's family, for the most part, understands our situation. Emma makes regular trips and has become James' great aunt. So, Reddit AITA, you support Mike while forcing his mother out and refuse to let her see her grandson? Update 6 months after the initial post. It's been 6 months since my previous post, and a lot has transpired. I would want to thank everyone for their advice and support. It's been a roller coaster ride, and I'm thankful for this community. Here is what has been going on. Linda's actions became worse. She began showing up to our neighbors' houses, spreading rumors about us. She claimed we were awful parents, and that they should contact child services. Some neighbors believed her and began throwing us filthy glances. Others approached us and explained what she was doing. It was unpleasant and stressful to have our personal lives spread around the neighborhood. Linda paid us a visit one day while Mike was working. She hammered on the door and yelled for several hours. I was afraid, holding James and attempting to keep him calm as Linda yelled outside. I contacted the cops, but Linda left right before they came. The officers took a report, but stated they couldn't do much because she was gone. Following that terrifying experience, we decided to install security cameras around our home. The tension began to have an impact on Mike's employment. Mike's employer called him in for a meeting because he appeared distracted and his work was slipping. Mike had to explain all that was going with his mother. His employer was empathetic, but told Mike that if he didn't focus on work, it could jeopardize his job. This added financial burden to an already difficult situation. My parents came to live with us for a bit to assist out. They were fantastic with James and allowed Mike and me to relax and spend time together. Linda, however, was not pleased. She began spreading stories that my parents were attempting to convert Mike against his own family. She even called my father's job and told them he was an alcoholic who should not be trusted around children. It was a lie, of course, but my father had to answer inquiries from his supervisor, which was humiliating for him. Things worsened when Mike's cousin Amy married. We were not invited to the wedding because Linda informed the entire family that we no longer wanted to be a part of it. She claimed we assumed we were superior than everyone else because we had a baby. Mike was deeply saddened by this. He and Amy had been close growing up, and he was looking forward to attending her wedding. At the wedding, he attempted to advocate on our behalf. She told everyone the truth about Linda's actions, including how she accused me of infidelity and attempted to force me out of my home. This resulted in a massive fight at the reception. Some family members supported our position, claiming Linda had gone too far. But some people still believed Linda's falsehoods and accused Emma of betraying the family. The fight became so bad that Amy, the bride, burst into tears. Her new husband was furious, and he threw everyone out of the reception early. Amy later called Mike, distraught and stating her wedding had been spoiled due to our family problems. Mike felt bad, even though it was not his fault. Following the wedding fiasco, Mike's family was divided. Some people stopped communicating with us totally, barring us on social media and refusing to return our calls. Others contacted to apologize and confirm that they believed us. Mike's Uncle Joe, Linda's brother, was particularly supportive. He told us he had always known his sister could be difficult, but he never expected her to go this far. Linda then tried a fresh approach. She started being quite sweet. She gave James gifts and a card in which she apologized. She also sent Mike and me gift cards to upscale restaurants, claiming she wanted us to have a good date night. We were cautious at first, but part of us hoped she had finally recognized her mistake. Mike especially wanted to think that his mother had changed. He missed having a regular relationship with her. Against my better judgment, we decided to have Linda visit. We set tight rules: she could only come while Mike and I were home, and she could not be alone with James. At first, everything seemed fine. Linda was pleasant to me and adores James. She even brought a handmade supper, knowing how much Mike enjoyed her cooking. However, it was all an act. Linda attempted to flee with James after Mike went to the bathroom on her third visit. She had her car running in the driveway and a packed bag concealed in her purse. If my mother hadn't intervened to stop her, she might have taken our son. We quickly contacted the police, who detained Linda for attempted kidnapping. Mike was devastated to see his mother handcuffed and put in a police car. He burst out crying, feeling as if he had failed both his mother and his son. Linda spent the night in jail. The shock of being arrested seemed to jolt Mike's father up to the gravity of the issue. He came to see us the next day, looking exhausted and depressed. He stated that he was seeking for divorce from Linda and apologized for not believing us sooner. He asked if he could continue to be a part of James' life and promised to respect our boundaries. After a lengthy discussion, we agreed to allow him visit, but made it clear that he could not communicate any information to Linda. Mike was pleased his father had finally realized the truth, but he was also heartbroken that his family was crumbling apart. He started going to therapy to deal with all of his emotions. It has been quite beneficial to him, providing him with methods for dealing with stress and guilt. I went back to work part-time. It was difficult leaving James at first, but it's been beneficial to have something else to focus on. My coworkers have been really supportive, especially after learning about the turmoil with Linda. My boss even let me change my schedule so that I could be home when Mike's father visited James, which was quite helpful. James is doing well despite the commotion surrounding him. He is rapidly developing and resembling Mike by the day. It's often difficult to accept that he won't have a relationship with his grandmother, but we know it's for the best. We are doing everything we can to shower him with love and positivity. Throughout this process, we've become closer to Emma. She visits frequently and gets along well with James. She's been a tremendous rock for Mike, helping him remember the beautiful times they had with their mother while also supporting his decision to keep Linda away. Emma even confronted Linda when she attempted to turn Emma against us again. Emma informed Linda that she required professional help and that she would not be able to have a relationship with her until she had it. Linda didn't like losing control over Emma. She began telling people Emma was on drugs, which is why she was on our side. She even went so far as to plant narcotics in Emma's car and notify the authorities. Fortunately, the officers were dubious of the anonymous tip and did not prosecute Emma still. The encounter was frightening and embarrassing for her. Emma had work troubles as a result of the drug accusation. Her supervisor heard the whispers, and despite the lack of evidence, decided to let Emma go to prevent any potential problems. Emma was devastated. She had worked hard for her job, but now she was unemployed due to her mother's falsehoods. We invited Emma to stay with us while she looked for a new career, and she accepted. It's been lovely having her around, but our house is becoming a little crowded. Mike's father is working hard to put things right. He offered to pay for family therapy for everyone, including Linda, if she agreed to participate. Mike and I discussed it for a long time before agreeing to attempt it, but only if Linda agrees to seek assistance for her conduct first. We attended our first therapy appointment last week. It was quite challenging. Linda cried a lot and stated all she wanted was her family back. She mentioned how lonely she has been since Mike's father left her. The therapist was stern with Linda, telling her she needed to accept responsibility for her actions and acknowledge the pain she had caused. Linda did not appreciate hearing that. She yelled at the therapist and walked out of the appointment, accusing her of siding with us. Mike was disappointed after that, feeling as if we had taken a step back. Following the terrible therapy session, some of Mike's relatives and uncles contacted us. They said they'd heard about what transpired and regretted trusting Linda's lies. They asked whether they may come and meet James. We are considering it. We have been hurt too many times to trust freely. We're also discussing amending our wills. We want to make sure that if something happens to us, Linda does not receive custody of James. We are thinking of naming my parents and Emma as guardians. So that is where we are currently. Things have improved in some areas, but they remain problematic. Linda continues to cause challenges, but we are stronger as a couple and a family. Any suggestions on how to move forward and recover as a family is much welcomed. We're taking it one day at a time, but it feels like we're still stumbling along. Thank you for listening and your support. Update 2, 6 months after Update 1, and 1 year after the initial post. It's been another 6 months since my previous post here. Not much has happened, but I'd like to thank everyone for their advice and assistance. Here is what has been going on. Mike's employment is threatened. His company is restructuring and may lay off some employees. Mike could lose his job. We're pretty concerned about this. We are attempting to save money in case Mike loses his work, but it is difficult. We've spent a lot of money on lawyers as a result of Linda's problems. Linda discovered that Mike might lose his job. We believe one of Mike's coworkers must have told her. As soon as she learned, she began calling and texting us constantly. She keeps stating she wants to help us financially. If Mike loses his job, we know she's simply trying to reintegrate into our life. So we aren't returning her messages. Linda then started showing up at Mike's workplace. She kept stating she needed to speak with Mike about something vital in the family. She did this so frequently that Mike's supervisor had to inform her. She couldn't come there any longer. This is making things difficult for Mike at work. We are concerned that it will increase his chances of losing his job if the corporation alters its policies. All of this stuff with Linda is starting to impact James as well. He has been getting horrible dreams at night. He is quite sad when we leave him with babysitters now. He screams and begs us not to leave. We also have some new issues with the law. Linda discovered that we wanted to amend our will. We want to make sure that if something happens to us, Linda won't be able to take care of us. When Linda found out about this, she was furious. She claims she will battle us in court if we try to amend the will. She's telling folks we're insane from all the stress and can't make sound decisions. Our lawyer says Linda can't do much about it, but we're still concerned. Mike's father is attempting to assist us, but he is also dealing with personal issues. He and Linda are getting divorced, and it isn't going well. Linda is talking all kinds of strange things about Mike's father. She is also attempting to steal a large portion of his money, which he has saved for retirement. We want to aid Mike's parents. However, we don't have much money to spare right now, so that is where we are currently. Some things are better, but it's still really difficult. Many people have asked me why our family is facing financial troubles when I said that Mike's family was wealthy. Here you go. You've got your answer. Mike's family is wealthy. That merely refers to his parents, not him. Update 3 comes 1 year after Update 2, and 2 years after the original post. It appears that I have finally located the password for this account, and it has been a year since my last post, during which time much has occurred. I'd like to thank everyone who offered advice and support in the comments and DMs. It has been a difficult trip, but we are still standing. Here is what has been going on. Mike lost his job. Mike was one of the many employees who were laid off by the corporation. It struck us hard. We had some funds, but they were insufficient given how much money we had spent on lawyers as a result of Linda. I took on more shifts at the hospital to help, but it's been challenging. Linda, of course, saw this as an opportunity to step in. She began calling and messaging Mike incessantly. She offered money and explained how she could help if we just welcomed her back into our life. We ignored her at first, but she refused to quit. She even showed up at our house one day with a check, attempting to force her way inside. Michael slammed the door in her face. I was very proud of him for standing his ground, but Linda refused to give up. She began telling everyone that we were struggling and couldn't care for James properly. She phoned Child Protective Services on us, claiming we couldn't afford to feed our baby. They came to check on us, and while they immediately realized James was well cared for, it was humiliating and frightening. Mike's father tried to assist us out. He gave us money, which we grudgingly took. We needed it. But we felt awful about it since we knew he was also struggling. His divorce from Linda was getting ugly. Linda demanded half of everything, including his pension. She was prolonging proceedings in court, making it as expensive and difficult as possible. Then things became increasingly wilder. Linda obtained Mike's resume and began emailing it to companies while impersonating him. She even created bogus email accounts in his name. Mike began receiving calls for interviews he had never applied for. It was a mess. We spent hours contacting these companies to explain the situation. Some of them believed Mike was unstable and blacklisted him. It's made his job hunt considerably more difficult. Emma, Mike's sister, has been our support through everything. She's been assisting us with James, job hunting with Mike, and interfering with the rest of the family. But it is taking its toll on her. She is constantly fatigued and anxious. We discovered she's been using anti-anxiety medicine to deal with things. We're sorry that our difficulties are harming her so much. We believed things couldn't get worse, but we were mistaken. Linda launched a smear campaign against us on social media. She started a Facebook group called Justice for Grandma, which has since been deleted, and she posts all sorts of lies about us. She claims we are abusive, that we are turning our child against her, that Mike is an alcoholic, which he is not, and that I am having an affair with Mike's employer, which I am not. Mike does not even have a job right now. Some of Mike's family members trust her. His aunt began making derogatory comments on my Facebook pages, and his cousin confronted Mike at the grocery store, yelling at him for abandoning the family. We have had to block so many folks. It feels as if we are losing our entire support network. But the worst has yet to come. One day we received a call from James' daycare. They reported Linda had arrived, stating she had the authority to pick up James. Thankfully, they were aware of the situation and refused to allow her take him, but it terrified us. We had to withdraw James out of that daycare and locate another one, which was a headache given our financial position. Following that incident, we decided to pursue legal action. We sought for a restraining order against Linda. The court proceedings were nasty. Linda nailed the pitiful, grieving grandmother role to perfection. She cried, saying all she wanted was to see her grandson. However, our lawyer supplied all evidence of her harassment and attempted kidnapping. The judge granted the restraining order. We assumed that was the last of it, but Linda only got sneakier. She started sending flying monkeys after us, like she normally does. Meanwhile, Mike was still struggling to find work. Linda's bogus applications had really fouled things up for him. He finally got a part-time work at a local hardware shop, but it isn't enough to support our bills. I'm working extra hours at the hospital, but with all the legal fees, we're barely getting by. We had a fright last month when James became quite ill. He had a high fever and was vomiting. We had to take him to the ER. I was worried that Linda would find out and go up to the hospital. Fortunately, that did not occur, but the anxiety was real, and medical bills are another financial burden we simply cannot afford right now. Mike's father's health has deteriorated significantly. The stress of the divorce and his relationship with Linda has had a significant impact on him. He suffered a small heart attack last week. He's well, but it was a wake-up call for all of us. Mike feels terrible, as if this is all his fault. I keep telling him it's not true, but I know he's battling with it. We're doing our best to support Mike's father, but it's difficult when we're struggling to keep our own heads above water. Emma has been staying with him to help him heal. But this means she's not as available to assist us with James, which makes things much more tough. Linda, of course, is exploiting Mike's father's health problems to play the victim. She has been posting on Facebook about how she should be able to visit her dying husband, even though he is not dying, and how terrible we all are for keeping her away. Some individuals fall for it and write us nasty messages. We had to change our phone numbers again. Linda continued to find ways to contact us, regardless of how many times we blocked her. It's inconvenient having to continuously update our contact information with work, James' daycare, and everyone else, but it is worthwhile for the peace of mind. So that is where we are currently, still striving, fighting, but also developing and healing. Linda continues to cause problems, but we are getting better at dealing with them. We are stronger as a partnership and a family than we have ever been. We're focusing on our tiny family, mending, and creating a happy life, despite everything. Edit. Just a quick update, and I didn't want to write a major post about it, but Mike has finally received a lead on a better job. It's not in his field, but it is full-time with benefits, which would be fantastic for us. He has an interview next week. We are trying not to get our hopes up too high, but it is difficult not to. This work has the potential to significantly improve our situation. The final update comes a few weeks after update 3. Wow, I've been stunned by the outpouring of love and support since my last post. Many of you have contacted out via comments and direct messages, offering advice, sharing similar experiences, and just sending words of encouragement. It genuinely means everything to us. I've read every message, even if I haven't been able to answer to each one. Your help has been a guiding light throughout some extremely dark moments. Some of you have even offered to assist us financially or provide work leads for Mike. While we have not taken any financial assistance, your generosity has truly moved us. Moving on to the update. It's been a few weeks since my previous post, and I'd like to discuss what's been going on with our family. First, some good news: Mike got the job he applied for. It's not his original field, but it's a steady job with nice benefits. The compensation isn't as great as his previous position, but it's adequate to keep us afloat. We're very relieved to have a consistent income again. Mike is also loving his work, which is encouraging given all of the stress he has been experiencing. Unfortunately, Linda has not given up. She's become more subtle in her attacks, yet they still happen. We discovered she had been sending anonymous letters to our neighbors, telling them we were awful parents and that they should keep a watch on us. Some neighbors have approached us about it, and the majority are already aware of the situation. But it's frustrating to feel like we're constantly being scrutinized. Mike's father's health is improving, but his divorce from Linda is still pending. MS has finally found a new job and moved away, but she still comes over to help with James. We've also made some difficult decisions recently. We've chosen to relocate to a new city around 3 hours away. I know we used to say no, but we never expected the situation to worsen, and because Mike had lost his prior job, this decision wasn't a bad one to make. Mike can simply transfer to his new job, and I've actually found a post at a hospital there. It's scary to leave our support system, but we believe we need a new beginning away from Linda's influence. Except for Emma and Mike's father, none of Mike's family members know where we're heading. We've also applied for a more permanent restraining order against Linda, which includes our new site. I understand that this is an unsatisfying finish for you all, but that is just life. I doubt I will make any more updates, so this will be the last one. And from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate everyone who has followed our tale, sent us happy thoughts, and sent words of encouragement. You helped us stay strong when we wanted to give up. A lot of people have asked if we're still in touch with Mike's father and Emma. Indeed we are. They are the only ones who know where we are heading. We intend to have them visit once we're settled. Mike's father is even discussing retiring to our new city after his divorce is finalized. Emma intends to assist us with the relocation and settlement process. We're quite grateful for their assistance.